Okay, come up here. Come up. Come on. Get up. If you're going to come up, come up. Okay, lie down. Lie down. Excuse me.
You've been knocking on the wall or not for Ben?
I don't know, should I? Like you said. It says we're live.
Good, we good.
Okay,
You're
fine.
Mhm.
Okay. Welcome to the March 21st, 2022 meeting, the Yarmouth Board of Health. I'm Hillard Bosky, a member of the board. Just one note for the public, and that this is a hybrid participation meeting, Zoom, or obviously you can come into town hall. If anyone needs instructions, how to watch at home, it's all on the town website. So we'll start with attendance. Mary, are you present?
Here.
Okay, Deborah, are you present?
Present.
Eric? Eric, are you present? Visually.
Lucky's frozen.
It's frozen. I'll talk slowly and see
There
if
you
you
go.
are present. Welcome back. Okay, Charlie, you present?
I hope so.
Okay, Director Murphy, are you present?
Present.
Okay, that's pretty good. We have a quorum. So as usual, the first item on the agenda is public comment. And that is if anyone would like to address the board, perhaps any subject besides something that's on the agenda would probably be most efficient here, use of everyone's time. So either someone present here or watching, anyone would like to come forward and make a comment?
And you're going to allow the people with the questions on the HOS one to speak separately, the neighbors?
Oh, absolutely. I just think it would be a little bit, move things along that way.
Okay.
It's always nice to see people here in the audience. Anyone online? Anyone watching has a comment? Ben, anyone there? That's a no. Okay. Moving along. So the second item on the agenda is a hearing. And that is apparently is an issue here at 414 Route 6A in Yarmouthport, Massachusetts. And this has to do with a new stable permit. So I understand there are people here who would like to address the board. This would be the time to do it. All I ask is take your turn and just come forward, introduce yourself for the record, and we can start. Does anyone like to start? Be the first one to speak up.
Would you like to want me to give a little background first at all, or
Sure.
there's a little further? I need the owner of the property is here. If we want him to
Great.
come to the front table.
Sure.
Jared,
Well,
you're here. You can sit right at the front table if you can have your.
Okay, Director Murphy, you're going to start though.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
This is the owner of the property that brought the property, I want to say probably about a year and a half ago,
2 years, yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
I stopped out summer of 21 at that time. Prior to him buying the property, he inquired to our office if it was large enough to bring horses in. And a stable requirement, I told him he had to meet for 2 horses, it'd have to be at least an acre, which he did have. However, the corral and stable area needed to be 50 feet in from a property line and 100 feet from a neighbor's house. And then he'd have to show us a plan on that. I did meet him out after he had moved in and brought the horses over. I did meet with him and brought him a copy of the applications, the stable application to fill out for a stable permit. Probably a couple months went by, did not receive it, and then I stopped out at least probably a third time. I know I was out there in July and mentioned to him again that we need the stable application. I've received a few complaints about the horses and manure, and we need to know that's being done. He said that he had reached out to a land surveyor to have the property surveyed, and I said, I need that plan, and we need to get that to us. Unfortunately, that when I was working with them, the information didn't come forward to me. I still received some additional complaints from neighbors. So this probably about a month ago, I again went by the property, met him at the property and said that you absolutely need to bring your application in and information in, and a Board of Health meeting is being scheduled, which is where we are today. We still need the surveyed plan in showing the property lines and the distances to the stable area 50 feet into the neighbor's house. You're going to provide that. We haven't had that
I have
yet.
that today.
Okay, so we'll need to look at that because I did call the surveying company that did the work, and they said they did have a plan, but I hadn't seen what the details of the plans are.
Yeah.
So we'll need to look at that to ensure those distances, because I know they're very close on all the distances.
Right.
So you can probably explain that a little better. Does it
Excuse me, I think I'm going to have people in the audience come forward.
okay, at this
first.
time? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
okay.
let them.
That's only if you're.
No,
done.
that's fine.
And so this is a permit for horses as well as the corral
Correct.
and what else?
The stable.
Just a detail and the stable.
Correct.
For all 3.
Yes.
And this is the same permit.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure people at
So
home
I
are
had
following
it
that.
surveyed to,
Okay, sir, we're gonna
Excuse me,
just
yeah.
wait 1 second. That's all. We're gonna start there, and then you're gonna have as much time as you'd like.
yeah, sorry.
That's okay, and everyone out there has as much time as they want to
Mhm.
address this. Okay, so anyone want to come forward? Great.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Attorney David Reed,
Oh.
and I represent the neighbors John and Lisa Grady, who are on 415 Route 6A, which is directly across the street from this property. They're not able to be here tonight personally. I believe they're online in case you have any questions for them. But they asked me to review the application and the regulations and to come and address you about the history and our assessment of this application. You should have 2 letters from Mr. and Mrs. Grady. I hope you've each had a chance to read them. If you haven't, I have an extra copy. Do they have those, Bruce? Or?
Yes, I'd just like to say at this time, the board doesn't have the letters because their board packet goes out on Thursday or Friday, and some of these letters came in today, so they have not,
Okay.
the full board has not seen them. They can be read into the record by whoever's here, and if you're not here, I will read something into the record. So,
Have the board members had a chance to see my letter of late this afternoon? Then?
no,
All right,
no.
I have extra copies. Okay,
Yes, so
yeah,
I would, if you want to just read your letter and John and Lisa's letter.
Okay.
for the record.
May I hand out copies of those?
Oh, certainly.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, may I approach?
Oh, yeah, come on, absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And as Bruce mentioned, you're welcome to just read any letter.
I can address the points of the letter rather than just read it. I think that'd probably be more efficient.
Sure.
As Mr. Murphy has indicated, there have been a series of complaints from my clients, and I understand from other neighbors, concerning the operation of the stable, most notably the odors that are emanating from the site to the neighborhood. My clients, as I indicated, are across the street, so they're more than a couple hundred feet away from the stable itself. And yet for the last better part of 2 years, they've repeatedly had problems with the odor coming from the site, to the point that they've been unable to enjoy their own outside yard and sometimes inside because of the odor of the manure and urine from the horses that are on this site. They believe the site is inappropriate for this use for a number of reasons. One of which is that it's very poorly draining, apparently. Water pools and remains in the backyard in the corral area after even a moderate rain session. And that probably contributes to the odor transmission. It appears that the applicants have not complied with your regulations in terms of how to handle and manage manure and debris from the stalls. It doesn't appear that it's been either contained within a durable and watertight container as is required, nor does it appear that it's been removed on at least a weekly basis from the site. There was a good deal of cleanup apparently done within the last 2 or 3 days, but I don't think that's representative of what's going on for the last 2 years. On a more technical level, your regulations do require that the corral, paddock, and stable all be at least 100 feet from any adjoining habitable structure. While we haven't seen the plan that they apparently have tonight, it appears to us from using the Google Earth measurement features that approximately the stable is about 75 feet from their own home and about 60 feet from the house on the adjoining property to the right, to the east. The regulations also require that the structures, the corral, the paddock, and the stable, all be at least 50 feet from the boundary lines of the property. Again, not having seen any plan, there was a plan on record for the Old Kings Highway Committee from when the barn was built, and I provided you with a copy of that tonight in my letter. That shows the then barn and now stable to be only 14 feet from the easterly boundary line. 14, not 40. And if you take the land court plan of record, which I've also provided with you, and from its scale can approximate the 50-foot setbacks from each of the side and rear lines, it only leaves an area of about 66 feet by 103 feet that's even available for all of the features involved in this use. For the corral, for the paddock, and the stable, all would have to be contained within an area of about 66 feet by 103 feet. And I really don't see how that can be done to adequately provide for 2 adult horses, never mind all the other procedures that are involved with the management and use and ownership of such animals. So on the whole, for the reasons we've cited, for the reasons in my letter, which I would ask you to include within your record, for the lack of space to effectively contain the required structures and improvements for the proposed use, it just appears to be a completely inappropriate site for this request, and we would ask you to deny this license tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Anyone? Any questions, as well as people at home, rather the board members at home?
Thank you then, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, okay.
I see a hand raised up. Is that a hand for us to look at if they're in back?
This is, the public can speak up also.
Is that for us? Because I know your client, John, is listed as John.
Yes, and
I see a hand
they would
up.
try to be available in case you had any questions of them, or if there's something on a personal level that they'd like to add.
Okay, okay. We're fine?
So-
Okay,
That is not there.
okay.
Mary or Eric, any questions, comments?
I do have one question. Did your clients ever speak with the folks across the street about the odor?
I have to ask them that question. I know they've spoken repeatedly with Mr. Murphy and with your department, as well as their other neighbors. I don't know how much interaction they've had personally with the applicants tonight.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything? If not, we can see who else would like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see a hand up. Okay, why don't you head over and just introduce yourself and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Judith Recknagel, and I live at 408 Route 6A, which is the property right at the east of the horse at 414.
Okay.
And I apologize. I would have certainly brought you copies. I did stop by the office this morning and handed in, I personally handed in copies, and I was not told that I should have brought copies for you. So I think the best thing I could do is read it, because otherwise I won't.
Oh, by all means, sure, go ahead.
And I also do have a copy of a letter from 418 that was handed in. And if I may, I would like to read that one as well. I have been given permission by those people to read it, but I'll read
Let's start with yours
ours first. Okay.
first, okay?
We live at 408 Route 6A. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you. We are against the permit for the horse stable at 414 Route 6A and ask that it not be granted due to the town's stable regulations have not been followed for property line and dwelling setback distances and handling of manure and noise. Our property is small and is enclosed on two sides, north and east, by 414 Route 6A. They removed all the trees and all the shrubs that were there and put fences up very close to the property line. There are two corrals, the larger one on the north side and the smaller one on our east side. That's their west side. This means that to maintain the fence and all the other activities for the horse corral, they are walking, pounding, digging, or burning debris on an almost daily basis with no buffer. They have access to heavy equipment running for many hours each day, such as bulldozer, tractor, dump truck, metal grinder. Whenever there is a heavy rain, the corral on our east fills with water, and they run a pump or dig at the line to drain the water. We like to have friends over and be out in the garden, but the noises and odors prevent us. The horse's manure builds up without being taken away as required, and there are many more flies in our yard and inside our home. Without proper stable distance setbacks and manure handling, we have no separation from the stable to be able to enjoy our yard. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Any comments from board members on this letter? I see Mary and Eric do not. Okay. So you have another letter from a
Yes.
different neighbor. Before we start that, so your property is directly east. If one were facing the property we're discussing, you're to the right. Is that correct?
I misspoke. I'm to the left.
The left.
Yeah, perhaps I
Okay, so
misspoke. I meant to say to the west.
West, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that was confusing to me.
Pardon me.
I went
Yeah.
that's okay, make the site visit. Okay, so the second letter, why don't you just tell us the name of the person and where do they live?
This would be Sandra Kufel
You put this one up?
and Thomas McLeod, and they live at 418 Route 6A. And that would be facing the property on the right.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Dear members of the Board of Health, we request that the stable permit not be granted to 414 Route 6A. We live at 418 Route 6A and have lived here for the past 18 years. The garage presently being used as a stable was built by the previous owner, the the late Don Brown to hold his boat and for his woodworking shop. This building where horses are kept now is too close to our residence and lot line, is not 100 feet away from a residence and 50 feet from a lot line per stable bylaws. Our kitchen and bedroom windows face this building and corral, and we cannot open windows because of the constant odors and noises from the dump truck, tractor trailer, and other equipment used. Equipment is left running in the driveway, which rattles our house windows and walls and fills our yard with fumes. Manure has been piled 8 feet high until they used a bulldozer and a large dump truck to remove it in January, working all night, driving between the garage and our property line. We appreciate the opportunity for your consideration. We are asking for relief.
Okay, thank you.
I do have, would you like to have a copy or?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Just, thank you. Great, appreciate that. Board members, any comments on the second letter?
I'm saving all my comments for the end because I've had horses for 35 years.
That's your call, all right. Eric, Mary, any comments, questions?
No.
Okay, so anyone else present that would like to come forward? So just, great,
I would like to.
sure, just,
Okay, I have copies. I brought copies in case.
we'll take it, sure.
Okay.
What address?
Are you Bruce?
Yes,
I'm Carolyn Pickman.
okay.
I'm
Elmcroft.
15.
Yes, I do have yours.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good, thanks. Mhm.
So just introduce yourself for the record, thank you.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Pickman, and I live at 15 Elmcroft Way. I am a butter of 114 Route 6A, and I'm here today with my husband, Fred Shope. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board for hearing us today. I'm not that familiar with this procedure. However, I do have two questions, and I'm just going to ask these questions and then go read my letter. And
Absolutely.
I am not completely aware of when a permit is to be applied for. Is it to be applied for after the work is done, during the work is done, or before the work is done? So, and we don't have to answer that right now, but
I
I'm
think,
not sure
I
that.
think we can, it's easier for everyone to follow. I think it's a good question, in fact. Director Murphy,
Prior to the horses coming to the property.
Okay. Back in July of 2020, which was a very difficult time for people to be answering phones, I did call various town offices, and no one was aware of what was going on in our neighborhood and next door to us. So it was all new information that horses had been brought into the area at that time. And my other question is, how long is a permit applied for? Is it 1 year, 5 years, forever? If a permit is granted, how long is that for?
Director Murphy.
It needs to be renewed annually.
Oh, it needs to be renewed annually. Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that. My letter states as such. As arbiters to the property at 414 Route 6A, Yarmouthport, we submit this letter. With good reason, we are strongly opposed to grant the stable permit to owners Jennifer Garbett and Jared Elderly. The 414 property extends the entire length of our backyard. We are year-round residents living on a small lot in a densely developed neighborhood. For 2 years, we've endured demolition, oftentimes at night, disruption, and uncommon unhealthy living conditions due to the introduction of 2 horses into our neighborhood. It is not clear the adult owners of these animals have the means to properly care for them, and how do we even know these animals are healthy animals? For 2 years, the owners have resisted the obvious. They have not obtained proper town permits for the many property and building changes made. The town, the Historic Commission, the Board of Health was not able to follow up to the neighbors' pleas in a timely and appropriate response, asking for a halt to be put to the many changes going on at 414 Route 6A. Almost an acre of our neighborhood's natural vegetation, beauty, and trees have been removed for a horse corral. The corral is not drained, it is muddy, it attracts mosquitoes and black flies. 2 horses will pass 400 pounds of manure and 30 gallons of urine a week. This means 20 tons a year. Our outdoor enjoyment is stained and restricted with a putrid stench of their horse manure. Our neighbors and we have stopped enjoying why we live here. We live here to go outside to our yards and our decks, go into our gardens, have peace of mind, have outdoor meals, and entertain. Why is this happening? So there's my letter. Thank you for
Thank you for
listening.
coming in.
Oh, I have one. We say no to the permit.
Director Murphy, maybe just as to the town, there is one reg, it's the right to farm. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that was established a while ago. And is that relevant here? I mean, does that give the right for anyone in Yarmouth to farm or have horses, assuming they have the property that allows for it?
Correct. The town adopted at town meeting a right to farm article allows people to agricultural and have farm animals on the property, but they still must comply with town codes. However, it does note that during the right to farm, there will be reasonable odors and dust and fumes. So it's something when it's come up in the past, we've also, wouldn't exempt them from meeting the setback requirements, but for the operation where there might be some odors and dust at times, is that reasonable? And I know in the past situation we had once that we worked with the agricultural committee and they went out and viewed the property also. I think we had one about 1.5 years, 2 years earlier.
Thank you. Okay, that's helpful. Board members, anything right now?
So I had a question about the application, excuse me. It's highlighted, if a new application, please attach a copy of the plot plan, which at the time we didn't have.
Correct.
Okay. And with the location of everything, and also written letter of statement signed by all abutters to the property.
Correct. That is on the application. It's not within the regulation, but we've put it on the application so people would know if a farm animal was coming next to them. It doesn't say they have to speak for or against it.
Sure, I understand that.
This was not submitted. I did bring this to the owner's attention. He said, well, when he understands most of the owners unfortunately are against them, so he didn't want to just go knock on their doors and say, I needed this. So I understood
Makes
why he
sense.
wasn't bringing it to us.
That's why I asked. Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the right to farm.
Sure.
Is that reserved for those who are making their living farming? In other words, generating income through farming, or does it apply to folks who have animals, farm animals, just as a hobby as well?
I think we're about to tell you.
In the right to farm definitions under farm, they just include as part of the definitions, keeping and raising of livestock, including horses, keeping of horses as commercial enterprise, and keeping of poultry, swine, cattle, and so forth. So it doesn't say specifically, it would seem that it would be included.
You said as commercial enterprise, is that what you said?
Yes, or keeping of commercial enterprises.
Oh, okay. Or, okay.
So it doesn't have to be commercial, or does it?
I don't believe it has to be, but it could be. I mean, you could do it as commercially,
Right.
or I would think that you could also do it just as including keeping horses.
Okay. Okay. I mean, you think people at home who live there and growing vegetables, let's say. So that'd be non-commercial. Let's assume that's selling it.
Mhm.
Okay. So it could be either way. Someone in the audience, yes, why don't you come up once again to the podium? Okay.
I was under the impression with the right to farm, that language was included that said, shall not interfere with any other bylaw of the town. That the right to farm included that specific language. All bylaws of the town must be followed. It doesn't exempt the enterprise. They still must follow all the bylaws of the town.
To me, that would make a lot of
Correct.
sense.
It does say that, does not exempt exempt the setbacks and so forth. But it does talk about reasonableness of noise and odors and dust. So that will be a discussion part for the board also.
Okay, sure. Charlie, you mentioned a few things to say. Do you want to do that now or have the gentleman representing the property or
Well,
perhaps the
the
owner?
thing I'd like to know is what are we doing to rectify this? I mean,
I think,
Why don't we hear from the owner then, and then we can have that discussion, which obviously we
what I
should.
would do before I'd make any decision about this at all, because I have a huge background with horses and how to get rid of manure and everything else.
Sure.
I'd like to go over to the site and see, because I don't believe half the things I hear about any of this. I'd go see the site and,
Yeah,
Okay,
the manure is.
excuse me, let's just start. Okay. So I think it makes sense to have the gentleman speak as much time that, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Just introduce yourself and.
I'm Jared Early. I apologize for all the butters, with the issues, moving into the property. It's taken us 2 years, to get everything straightened away. I took the top loam off and piled up stuff and kept turning it around.
Yeah.
It just got a little too much. So I removed it in January. Everything's completely out of there. We will, continue to take it out twice a week.
what I did with my manure for years,
Yeah.
until I didn't have the horse again, is I had a
Yeah.
couple landscapers that used to buy it twice a year from me. By
Right,
the
it's good
truckload.
stuff. Yeah, it's all natural diet. It's not.
I mean,
yeah,
they
it's
love that
beautiful
stuff.
Yeah, you grow vegetables, and that's
So,
because you
that,
can't
that's
buy 'em.
easy to get rid of when you talk to the right people.
Right. Yeah. Leo's one of them. So yeah, we had removed everything from the property already.
Oh, okay. Well,
So, I mean, the regulation is clearly states how manure has to be maintained in
Yep,
some kind of
covered.
structure.
Yes.
Um,
We are, in the process of getting a trailer. In the meantime, we're going to put it in landscape barrels. We've been taking it out twice a week and covered, So that's what we're doing, for now, until we can get the means of getting it out with a trailer.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jared. What did you say you're going to do prior to getting the trailer? You're going to do
Landscape barrels covered.
landscape barrels? Okay.
Yes. And it's on the cement pad out back. I don't know if you had noticed that when you,
Where would that be? The barrels be?
right in the back of the barn on the cement pad.
On this, right by the back door.
Yeah, so it
Um,
doesn't,
How big are those barrels and how many would you have?
so the green landscape barrels.
Okay, and you'd probably have
I have 4 of them.
4 of them and
Yeah,
you'd take them out.
Take them out twice a week. Yeah.
There was one there today in the front I saw. Are those the ones you're referring to? They were green with yellow writing on it. I didn't take the time to read it, but there was one large bin there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I don't know if
the
that's what you're
green
referring to.
landscape barrel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had the covered in the back there with the plywood. Yeah.
That I didn't see. Okay.
Yeah.
So the manure is only one issue. Certainly,
Yeah.
the abutters have brought up a number of issues, and there's also the health department certainly had a lot of issues with what's taking place and not taking place there. Perhaps you want to address some of the other issues.
So we it took us a while to have the vet come out as well for the vaccinations. That was quite a bit to get her to come out and do that.
Who's your veterinarian?
What's her name?
Just for
again?
the public?
Marina Caesar.
Yes.
Yes, it's written down in the application.
Yes,
so
I
it's
do.
all-
I do have her report board of the vaccination of the horses, and she has inspected both horses. I do have that information.
Out of date on their vaccinations either.
Just 1 second. We're not going to be able to hear people on the side. If you're not at the mic, if you'd like to come forward, just introduce yourself. Otherwise, it's really not,
Do you want to sit down?
the people at home cannot hear you.
She's grabbing another chair. That's fine. Oh, careful.
Marina Caesar, it has been my horses. I've owned the horse 14 years and I've boarded him. And she's been his vet for 14 years and he's never been out of date on vaccinations. The other horse was purchased as a birthday present for our daughter. He came fully vaccinated onto the property from the dealer that we bought him from. So none of the horses were ever out of date on vaccines. Due to COVID and Marina only doing a certain amount of visits, it was hard to get her out. I also have a farrier that comes out every 6 weeks to trim their feet. And I have a floater that comes out to do their teeth once a year. And she's an equine dentist. She's out in Western Mass, so it takes time to get her to come out. I don't do power floating and I don't do vets or floaters on the Cape because it's not good for the horse.
Just keep in mind, there are people listening, including myself, don't know what floaters are.
If they file the teeth, a horse has, their teeth grow points. And this happens to horses in the wild, but you have to file the points down so that they're comfortable.
Okay,
And
thank you.
she comes out and does any dental for the horses. So the horses are not neglected, they're not unhealthy in any way. They are perfectly healthy, they're perfect weight. When the paddock had been flooded, we rented a pump and got the water out as quickly as possible. So the horses have never been at risk for, standing in mud or water. And Bruce has been out, and on the Cape, we live in New England, mud happens, and there are a lot worse barns than what we have. But we are vigilant and to care for our animals and love them. And when they're in crisis or we know that there's a situation, we are right there for them. We've had neighbors come over, feeding rotten carrots and had both horses colic. We've asked them not to come on the property when we're not home or feed the horses anything because you don't know what their diet is or what they're allowed to eat or not eat. We almost lost my daughter's horse within a month's time of owning him because he colicked and it took 24 hours to get him out of it. So when, Marina came out for that occasion, we weren't doing vaccines because he was in distress.
Okay.
But we're in the right direction and we're doing our best so that the horses can stay on the property. Running the machinery, we both work, full-time jobs. So weekends and, we never did it all night long. We shut down machines, by 10 o'clock, which is the noise bylaw. You had your turn.
Go ahead.
The water that comes on the lot, and I know I've walked with you, some of it comes right down from 6A because it needs probably an extended berm across the front of your property. Have you been able to reach the state
I haven't
highway?
reached out yet, but it's always been that situation, you know?
That berm needs.
Always flooded there anyway.
Yeah, the berm needs to be extended. They extended it on the other side of the street. They put a new berm in, and I think you need to contract. You do have a catch basin in front of your property,
Goes right by
but it
it.
goes right by it. So, and it comes down your property. So I think
Comes right down the sidewalk.
you need to look at that. You want to just talk about what you do for fly control?
We buy fly predators.
You want to just explain that process?
Fly predator eats the larvae of the flies so that they don't produce as much and they die. We order those from Arbico Organics, and they send out a package of them once a month from May until October.
Yep.
And we turn over any buckets with standing water. We discovered 2 50-gallon drum on a abutting property that was filled with water, so that could have been the mosquito problem. But we don't have any standing water that produces mosquitoes.
Okay.
Bruce, do we have a plot plan? Is there some, we don't. So we can't look at where anything is, or
Do you have the
setbacks,
plot? Do you
or,
have the plot plan to present to us tonight?
I have it on my phone too. We can get it.
Excuse me one second. Everyone at home won't be able to hear you unless you're at the mic. Thank you.
This is the plot plan they're presenting. However, it does not have a land surveyor stamp on it or distances to the corral to the property line or the neighbor's houses. So I think they picked that up when I talked to the
No, I
company.
have to pick up the original copy.
That's what-
If
that's-
that's what you want, that's what we'll have to do.
Yes.
I sent you the email with the, and you said we were gonna go from there, but we can certainly, I can go and, acquire that
Yes.
and get that, but it was done a couple years ago prior to what the construction was done. So I knew where the lot lines were to pull in to run the fences.
I mean, this is difficult to even discuss nor make a decision. I mean,
Right.
this is information, I guess Health Department needed July, right? We're about 9 months into this to knowing what was going on. You had an application request in July, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I mean, that's a long time. I mean, we need to make a decision on what to do. You have horses without a permit, we need to make some decisions about what,
So it was just under my understanding that I just got this in the mail saying there was a hearing.
maybe
What do you
you're
mean, since
mistaken or I
July?
am, but there's some history.
No, sir.
I don't think we were, I'm not talking
No.
about coming in for a hearing. We're talking about getting a permit.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'm saying goes back to the summer. Am I mistaken?
Oh, the hearing to come, well, he did
For a
not
permit.
have a permit. So the hearing tonight is, should a permit be issued?
This meeting is only because there has not been a permit
When we
granted.
brought the horses in, we were in full-blown 2019 COVID and everything was closed. We did speak to Bruce. He said we were doing everything right. He didn't see any problems. That we had the stalls, we had the mats, we were clean.
But I did say you did need a plan showing the property lines and everything. So, because we were still working, so that's why I came out there and said you still need to get the surveyed plan so we can confirm that your distances.
Certainly, this board's been meeting.
We apologize for that. I guess we misunderstood.
Mary, Eric,
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we don't even have a complete application. So I'm certainly not going to vote on issuing a permit or not. There hasn't even been the requirements for the complete application done.
I put an application in, ma'am.
We just received the application, correct? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. We received the application on March 10th. Even though we had asked for it, probably a year before that. But the application was not complete because you didn't have a plan with it.
I mean, the plan is the big thing. That's the main thing.
yeah, it's very hard for us to make any decision here tonight. I mean, there are certain setback requirements. We don't have the information. I mean, there's a map here.
I've never received a full thing from the surveyor, so I can acquire that, sir.
Certainly, we need that.
Okay.
As you can imagine, I mean, how do we make decisions without the information? I mean, the application is not completed yet.
Okay.
I'm just curious about the setbacks, if you want to address that. We haven't heard from you yet. Distances from property lines and houses. Anything you want to comment on?
No, not at the moment. Obviously, we don't have the right documentation.
Okay.
So why should I bother?
No, that's totally up to you.
Okay, no, I pulled all the tapes and correct the amount of distances, but I need to prove that with the correct documentation.
We feel
I'm sorry?
that we are at proper distances.
Okay, fine. So board, what do you want to do? Did you have some comments you want to make, Charlie, or you've done that?
Can we put this on hold until he can get the right paperwork in and get this going right?
Absolutely.
I think that'd be the best thing to do, but I still want to go over there myself and take a look at this because,
The next, for your information board, the next Board of Health meeting is Monday, April 4th.
Right.
That this would go on at the first one
good.
at 5:30.
So to have the information in front of us before that, it's going to
Yes,
be,
sir.
we need time to read it.
Yeah,
And
understood.
yeah,
Should try to submit it by, the first of the week. Hopefully, the surveyor has all that information on it, the property lines. I don't know if he picked up the fence when you were there or it has a scale because that will have to be scaled on it.
Mhm.
My concern is, does it show the two neighbors' houses? Did they survey and pick up the houses on both sides? I don't know. When we had talked, we don't know till we see it because that would be the only thing that they would need to go out to pick up those house corners. And they're busy. That would be my only concern.
Okay.
that's going to be crucial. You're right.
That's crucial.
I mean, we're just following regulations in town.
No, I
That's all
understand.
this board does.
Yes.
That's all.
And the house on the right-hand side of you is close. I mean, the other ones, you might be able to meet the 100 feet, but the one on to the right is going to be close to that 100 feet, I believe.
The one on the right,
Yeah, if you're standing,
418.
yeah. Because it's,
Well, the barn was built right, like the lot line is basically like probably 8 feet from the barn. I mean, that wasn't something that I built.
But the barn was not used for the purpose of storing livestock or housing livestock previously.
Correct.
It's on the opposite side.
I don't follow.
The horses are on the opposite side.
The horses are
Yes,
not on.
yes, yes.
Their stalls
So
are
there's a
not.
garage
Yep, no,
on the right-hand side. And then
The horses are on the opposite
I
side.
was there, sure.
Correct, but is that part of the indoor stable? I would have to look at the regulations board. Is that 50 feet from the property line, the indoor part of the stable? Not the whole garage or a barn is the stable where the horses are kept, only half of it, I think. So, what's the distances from the inside?
So the wall of the stable, that's all the way to the east, that wall from that distance to, I guess, the property line is what we're talking about.
yes.
Yeah, okay. This will also give us some time to read emails that apparently came in today. Mr. Reed had come forward. We'll have a chance to read his letters as well. Okay, so why don't we just postpone making a decision?
Make a,
So, yep.
you need a motion to
Yep,
continue.
absolutely.
I move that we continue.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second,
I would like to amend that to say that it would be no later than April 4th meeting. Absolutely no later than.
Mary, just one comment though. I mean, what if if we can't get a surveyor out there? I mean, if the
Well,
property.
it's not up to get the surveyor out there. It's up to the folks that have not had a permit pulled for 2 years now.
hopefully we're gonna move forward on this, so I don't care what happened 2 years ago. Right now, I'm concerned with what's going on tonight and on the next meeting.
Who seconded?
I did.
Any other discussion? If not, you're in favor of the meeting, just raise your motion, just raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, so we're on April 4th. Okay,
5:30,
all right, send the
5:30.
information in.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right,
Sorry, 4th or the 5th?
April 4th, April 4th. We meet on Mondays.
Yes, April 4th, Monday at 5:30.
April 4th.
Thank you.
We take a brief recess while they.
Sure.
Seconds, the ladies.
Absolutely. So, Erica, so we're,
Come over and take a look, okay?
take your time.
My daughter just turned 37, but her horse she bought, I bought her the horse when she was 9. I had horses before she was 1.
Chairman.
Okay. Okay, due to regulations, actually, this conversation cannot take place at the moment. So you guys connect after the meeting, any way you want, okay? I wasn't aware of that. Great. Apparently, you would need to do it after the meeting, okay? No, it's not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What happened to missing in action? Where'd she go?
bathroom break.
Yeah.
Oh, bathroom break.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, Ben, can we just cut the mic off for the time being? Thank you.
Next.
Yeah,
Let's-
he said he
well,
don't think he can legally do that.
Cannot. Oh, then leave it on. Thank you.
Want to make a motion to pause, but I think that works. But other than that, I think that.
Let it roll. Okay, don't worry about it. Keep it on. Thank you. We're next. Okay, why don't we start up again? And we're on the third item here on the agenda. This is a discussion of synthetic tobacco. And this is a subject that I brought up, which I just learned about, was even the existence of synthetic nicotine. So this is nicotine that's not produced from tobacco. I guess it's totally artificial. Most of the nicotine products come from tobacco. You know, if you're chewing gum or patches, certainly this is different. And so the reason I brought this up was to see whether or not we need to look at the tobacco regulations or not. From my reading, it sounded like the artificial nicotine, it looks like a lot of it is, I guess, consumed via inhalation, the same way that all the vaping had been taking place. So these are either throwaway pens or they're cartridges that are basically the synthetic nicotine. And apparently they're a lot stronger than what's been on the market before, the amount of nicotine. And there's appears to be some unfortunate consequences just dealing with the lungs and people using it and just addiction. So that's all. This is for discussion. If people have questions, want to talk about it a little bit.
Did you want to mention the, Mr. Chairman, the regulation the board has right now and the definition of tobacco? And it really doesn't, I don't believe, include synthetic.
Right. Well, I read it also. I'm sure it was in the packet. I'm sure everyone else were able to take a look at it. It really doesn't clearly refer to something called synthetic nicotine.
Right.
It looks like a molecule or chemical that's very similar to nicotine that comes from tobacco. It's like a mirror image of it, and apparently has the same or near the same effect as natural tobacco type of.
I have reached out to Bob Collette down at the County Tobacco Control to see if they've heard anything about within the county or the state about the new synthetic tobacco. Have not heard back from them whether the state's working on a regulation for this or not, or what their position is, or I don't even know if we have anything from CDC. It still seems to be under review from, reading that news article that was submitted.
Yeah.
Is the synthetic nicotine made from nicotine? I guess I don't understand.
It's basically a chemical that's made. In other words,
Okay.
these are
To
molecules.
mimic nicotine.
Yeah,
Okay.
very similar in structure with the same kind of effects that nicotine has. So that's what it is. So it's made in a lab as opposed to having it derived from a plant, from tobacco.
I feel like when we made this regulation, we didn't even know that existed.
No, we didn't. Yeah. And very little research has been done on it, apparently.
Yeah, very creative from the
Yeah.
companies and the companies that were selling all the vaping products. So it's a loophole. It doesn't really fit into the regulations that have been made.
And the shame of it is that vaping itself, as Dr. Spillane talked about when he, made some public appearances to talk about the vaping issue, vaping itself is probably very harmful to the human lungs. But so I mean, it's, even if it's not tobacco, it's certainly not a healthy habit. But it is attracting people because it's flavored, and it escapes the regulation because it's not tobacco.
Okay.
So what are we trying to do here?
We're just discussing the existence of a new product, and just that our regulations down doesn't really make reference to it. That's all.
I'd like to hear what Bob Collette says and what the state might be doing. And but yes, I think it's definitely something to keep our eye on and be proactive about if we get some more information.
Yeah, I agree.
I can put it on either an upcoming Board of Health meeting over the next month or so.
Yeah, if you,
I'll
if you
stand
get
up.
something, from Bob Collette or from the state, if we hear something.
Yes, I'm not familiar with it at all, other than the article that I read, so I'd be
That's.
curious to
that's-
hear more about it
I
myself.
came across that article by chance. That's where it came from. I wasn't familiar with it either. So, okay, so if you get information, we'll put it back on for a future meeting. Sounds good. Now, Bruce, you had put a discussion of vaping. Is that included in what we just discussed, or is this? a
Yes,
separate issue?
that included
Did, fine.
both of
Okay,
it.
we're up to an update on coronavirus. Director Murphy, this is your thing. Anything you want to take it away? What do you want to do?
Sure. Did we have the wastewater resolution after that?
We did.
Okay. Erica there we go. So we've kind of shortened the slideshow a little bit down to a little, as the numbers have continued to decrease, which I think is very positive. So as of last Thursday, we only had 14 active COVID cases within town and 51 death certificates. And I'll just stay on the 51 death certificates just for now, because there's been a couple news articles in the paper where the state examiner's office is going back through to look at some of the causes of deaths, whether they should be included or not be included. So the ones that we have right now are from the town clerk. It says a cause of death. It's either the primary or secondary. I think some of the questions earlier in some other towns, they might have just put pneumonia and they didn't put COVID. Or the person had COVID preceding that within a certain period of time, then died elsewhere. Or they died in a different town. So it's something we're keeping an eye on, and we'll just see how that research develops over the next month. You can see the number of the COVID cases, how from November it shot up to 258, then 500, then 1,000 in January, then it just dropped right off even quicker than when it came. So, we're still on that dramatic decrease right now. And these are, again, this was a date from, February we put together. Case tracker, from whom we had our first case, March 11th. And then we just kept track of it every 500, which was interesting. And, we hit our 4,000 case almost 2 years later. And it was just something I kept track of. So it's kind of interesting to look at. Our COVID case count, we can see that how it was the first wave. The highest first wave was 40. Then we went to 21 when we hit the second wave, or 174 cases. Vaccination began. We thought would be doing much better with the third wave, and then dropped right off last summer. And then this August, fall, it just shot dramatically up with the Delta variant, then the Omicron, where we had 272 active cases on a particular day. But you can see that it's dropping off even quicker than when we were first building it up. So on March 17th, we only had 14 cases. So positivity rate, how we sit based on last week, provided by the State Department of Public Health. The town's positivity rate is, decreased from 4. Now we're down to 3.36, which is lower than the week before. You can see pretty much there's only one town, Wellfleet, that was over 5%. Everybody is under 5 and continue to be lower. And even a couple of the hires that are in there were just higher by 1 or 2 cases. So it just, because they have a small population, it just puts them a little bit higher on the positivity rate. So our Yarmouth positivity rate of 3.36 is still higher than the county or the state average at this time. The numbers that we're receiving since last week, we had no cases, we had one case on Friday, one case on Saturday, and no cases on yesterday. So I would expect our positivity rate will go drop down when data comes out this Wednesday. Hospitalization rates, this is only data we've had from the 28th. It had been decreasing. We just had a slight spike, but between Falmouth and Cape Cod Hospital, the number of people in ICU had been steadily decreasing also, which is a good sign that there has been no impact on the healthcare system, which we were concerned with earlier when we had 170 active cases a day, that the impact on Cape Cod Hospital and the ICU, that was the concern. So much better over there now. Fully vaccinated, we're still at 78%. We've been pretty much right there, stagnant over there for the last probably month. It's hard to see the bar chart, but we are trying to get up to that 80%. But as we noticed in the past, sometimes even though we had a higher vaccination, didn't automatically mean our positivity rate would decrease also. That some towns, even though they had a higher vaccination rate in the 90s, high 80s and 90s, they still had a high positivity rate. So, but we still feel that fully vaccinated is the best direction to go with COVID right now. So we're still encouraging that. Appreciate Erica for putting all these slides together each week. It comes in right on Thursday to Friday, and it's a big effort on Erica's behalf, and especially when she's handling the phones and by herself. So thank you, Erica.
It's been great.
Okay. Do we get another slide?
Boosters? No?
That's it?
Boosters?
Yep. The COVID response reporting, if people want more information, that's on our website that we can lead to Department of Public Health for more information. Vaccinations are still being offered at Cape Cod Hospital by, phone calling. You can call over there, and that's Monday through Saturday. I believe they're still doing it 8 to 6. So that's available for the vaccinations. Still, you can look at the local pharmacies, and Stop and Shop on Long Pond is, I believe, still offering vaccination and booster shots. Testing again is still available at Cape Cod Hospital. Take-home test kits, phase 1, that we obtained 500 test kits that were distributed with the assistance of Mary in the community development. Phase 2, which we're in now, we picked up additional test kits. So we had a total of 4,600 test kits, and we've been passing them out on a regular rate at Town Hall here and at the Senior Center. We still have test kits available. People can just walk in here to Town Hall and pick up a test kit, or they can go to the Senior Center. And there's 2 tests per kit. They're all free to Yarmouth residents. They first go to low and moderate income, but if anybody has any concerns, they go to seniors, the disabled, or homebound, which we've been reaching out to. But if anybody has a concern that they may have been exposed, they're eligible for a test kit. So we've been very generous in all our decisions to make sure the test kits were out there. I have contacted all the churches in town and provided them test kits for people in their congregation that might have concerns. So we have been out in the community that way. We brought some over to the food pantry to pass out, and we're working with the Hands of Hope food pantry and clothing assistance in Harwich that we also fund through our human services.
How's it working out with the homebound folks?
We're still getting some more out to them. It's a matter of logistics and coordination. So we do have some out there.
Yeah.
So we're continuing on that. So, again, why supplies last Monday through Friday, just come right into town hall. Senior center, again, 9 to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday also. If you can't make town hall during those hours, you can call for an appointment and we'll schedule a time to pick one up. If you're not feeling well, we ask you not to come and get one, and we can either bring it by or leave it outside for you. So we've tried to make the reach out within the community the best we can. And this is the last slide that we just leave up so we know we're at the end.
Okay.
So the numbers are still going down. We're very glad they're going that way. We've kept our electronic signboard out on 28 here that just says, "Be safe, get boosted." And we'll probably keep that up for a little bit. Till our numbers keep going down, then we'll have to put another health message up on there.
Yeah, there'll be more information coming out shortly about second boosters, actually. That's the next item, I think.
There's a lot on the second boosters. Is there another variant coming out? I mean, there's a lot of
Yes.
Yep.
discussion.
A lot of unknowns. Yep. We're not done with this yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, in the past, when it's been at the UK, we see it after a month or so or more. So we'll hope for the best. So new and old business. I know.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
No, you got it. New and old. Yeah.
And so one item was the water resolution letter, right? Director Murphy, some comments about that?
Yes, the water resolution letter of the Board of Health support for the town wastewater treatment system. The board reviewed it, I want to say about a month ago at the Board of Health meeting, and was supportive of the wording. Since then, I've looked at the wording with the Assistant Town Administrator, Bill Scott, and there was a couple things we wanted to change about nitrogen in there. And then we added a couple more things. So it's changed a little bit from what the Board of Health saw, the reason we're sewering in town, besides just the nitrates and protection of the estuaries and the beaches and the swimming areas. So it's been updated, and I know Mary had a concern that we wanted to make sure we had some correct wording on protection of our water supply. So that's been added, and I think there might even be another wording added. So I think what I wanted to do was update it again with our Assistant Town Administrator, who was not available today, and then try to get wording that, Mary, that you can be comfortable with and the board can comfortable with, and then we can put it on the next meeting for review and signage.
Signage. Yeah, there's also the PFAS.
And yes.
Right, right.
Yeah, Mary, thank you for the effort on all that.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Mary, I'll send you another copy probably tomorrow, the next day, or at least this week, so we can make sure everybody's comfortable with the updated wording.
Okay.
This isn't the final one?
No, because there's going to be a couple small, minor changes to the final.
So
We had a couple final drafts as we were going.
I think-
We
No, that's fine.
kind of
I
thought
wanted
they
to
were
know
all
which one we were
final.
at. Okay,
hopefully you
cool.
haven't gone over to sign it too many times.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the point that Bill made was that this is the first resolution that they are requesting. We're kind of the trial department or committee or whatever for resolutions. So it's probably going to be tweaked more than the subsequent resolutions that they request will be.
Correct.
Ours will be sort of a template. But one of the things that they did add was some references, which was very good.
Some additional new or old business. That's Director Murphy or board members, anything?
Maybe some continued discussion on the, not necessarily the resolution, but I had some concerns. Bill did a great job with the revisions. but I couldn't help but feel like there was a little bit of an effort to kind of downplay the severity of the situation at hand with the water department. Mary, I think you felt the same way based on your email. I didn't necessarily see anything wrong with the wording with reference to high PFAS levels, because they were higher than what is considered acceptable level. And I certainly understand not wanting to alarm the public, but the fact remains that the levels were higher than they should have been. And obviously the public has a right to know in a timely manner when something like this happens, and the town has an obligation to notify the residents. So it sort of seemed like a kind of another instance of kind of minimizing the severity, downplaying the severity of it. That's kind of how it felt to me, which it just really doesn't seem right. So
Yeah, I agree. It'd be nice to hear back, I guess, from the water department, what protocol changes have been made, so such delays do not happen again. So it'd be helpful if we can get
The
specifics.
water department did make a presentation to the Board of Selectmen on that update. So they said they've taken steps to make sure it was corrected. And most of it was not getting the notice out in time, the required time frame. They do testing across the town on a regular basis. I know that, to make sure there's no coliform in the water supplies. They follow the state guideline, but they were problem with a notification.
Yeah, I didn't hear. Did anyone else?
No, I mean, I heard her presentation to the Board of Selectmen, and it was basically what we got in that letter. I got as a resident of Yarmouthport, and it said that, they'd made some changes to their protocols or process or procedures or whatever, but it didn't say what had been done, because this was not the first time that it happened. That there was not a notification in a timely. So it would be interesting to see just what they have done to be sure that in the future residents are notified and notified in a way that explains it clearly and not alarming them. Because, we don't know a lot yet about PFAS and the health effects, but there are some known health effects.
yeah, in that letter that we all received, well, not all of us, but that we all should have received, I just think it's kind of, I think there needs to be an effort to clarify some things, because I think Hillard mentioned it in the last meeting. I think the language read something like, "This is not an emergency. Had it been, you would have been notified immediately." And it's like, well, come on. I mean, and to shift, I understand that the third party maybe was directly responsible for not getting the notices out, but this, I think it's the water department's responsibility to ensure that happens. I mean, this is our drinking water.
I did call and talk to Lori personally myself and told her, about the call I had received from a resident and the postcard that I had seen and just talked about it in general. The communication was not timely, and it wasn't, I thought, very good, but probably on her list now.
Well, perhaps you can just, Bruce, just ask them to send some specifics on what protocols have changed and what they're doing. And I don't think at this point necessarily they have to come in or present, so on, but what specific changes have they implemented? Okay?
I'll reach out to the water department.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else on that particular subject? Any other new or old business? I don't hear any. You know what time it is then, folks?
Do.
Anyone want to make a motion for something?
Get out of Dodge.
I will move that we adjourn.
And that's a real
Second.
one. Second one, there's a second. All in favor, just raise your hand, say aye.
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 Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Stay well.
Thank you.